waiting. Yeah, I'm just waiting one couple seconds longer, I think. One member of council coming. Councillor Richter, let's see if you're there.
Yes, I am, Mr. Mayor, and I've just had a message.
I better get my camera on. There
we go. I've just had a message from a member of the public who says there's no video today.
Oh, okay.
Is that correct?
I'll pass that on.
I thought it was streaming.
Yeah. So, yeah, staff are on it. We'll just double check. Apparently they're saying it's on. Or they are saying it's on. Okay. All right.
It is on?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, and in particular, acknowledge our relationships with the Katzie, Kwantlen, Semiahmoo, and Musqueam First Nations. Now bring the special meeting of the Township of Langley Council to order, and the first item is to adopt and receive the agenda items. There's one addition. There was a notice of motion or a motion placed in other business on the budget meeting that has been deferred to this meeting. So with that addition, I would ask for a motion. Councillor Whitmarsh and second, Councillor Davis. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Thank you. We have minutes from the special council meeting for budget purposes on January 24th and the regular council meeting from January 24th. Could I have a motion to adopt those minutes? Councillor Coons, second by Councillor Davis. Any errors or omissions? See none. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. I'll move to delegations. We have one delegation, Mr. Brian Anderson, representing the Langley Rugby Club. Please come forward. We'll get your mic on. If you just, for the record, identify yourself, and you'll have 5 minutes to present.
Yes. All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Thank you very much for letting me speak today. My name is Brian Anderson. I'm the chairman of the Langley Rugby Club. We are located at 21280 Crush Crescent in Milner, BC. So, I am Brian Anderson, as I just said, and I am the chairman of the board. I have also been playing rugby at the location and the Langley Rugby Club since 1987. I have also been actively involved in the administration of the club since the mid-1990s. The Langley Rugby Club has been an integral part of the Langley's community sporting fabric since its beginnings in 1969. The LRC is a registered nonprofit society with over 300 active members ages 5 to 90 plus. The LRC has owned, maintained, and managed the grounds on Crush Crescent since 1987. Our location currently has just one soil-based grass field at this time. The current field has been used to foster and develop athletes from mini rugby all the way to national sporting players. The community of Langley, as well as the sport of rugby, have both felt Langley's population increase in the recent years and also the increased pressure for outdoor youth activities. Our current lone field just can't support the volume of playing traffic we are using it for. In December of 2020, we completed the purchase for an adjoining 4-acre parcel with the purpose to construct a second playing field. Our site development committee has thoroughly researched the construction cost of this sand-based field and have quotes in for the value of $750,000. We are aware that this low value does reflect our community of volunteers and the goodwill that the LRC currently has with several local contractors and suppliers. In terms of funding, the LRC currently has $250,000 in reserved capital plus $65,000 in liquid operating funds as a contingency. Those have come from generous alumni member donations. In December of 2021, our capital funding committee was successful with their application to the BC Community Gaming Grants Branch for a $250,000 capital projects grant. That was wonderful. We are now asking, though, for the Township of Langley to consider a 3-way matching funds contribution and provide the final $250,000 towards the development, construction, and completion of this first-class sand-based grass field. The timeline is weather dependent, but ideally it would be to break ground in April of 2022. Our site development committee is currently working with advisors to create a comprehensive fields design. We have retained the volunteer services of a retired TOL Park staff, he's also an alumni of the LRC, to act as our project manager. His expertise and his abilities will help to move the project in a timely manner before the weather changes in the fall. The field will then be fully playable by the fall of 2023. The Community Gaming Grant funding states that the projects must commence within 12 months of receipt of funding, which is December of 2022. We feel that the community benefit from this contribution by the TOL could be measured by way of future cost savings for the Parks Department. This field would also be available to a usage agreement with TOL and other user groups in the township's diverse and growing field sports. Currently, the TOL Park staff has designated 2 fields for rugby, one at Milner and the other at the LEC. Our main rugby season, as set by the BC Rugby Board, runs from September to April. With the soil structure and current drainage, the Milner field is realistically only playable in the month of September due to its challenges. The LEC field is an artificial surface that allows inclement weather play, but does come with its own challenges as well. Both of those come with Trinity Spartans, and the LUSA soccer programs have a large program usage there as well. We do appreciate that this field was well constructed and is an international approved rugby field, but the athletes much prefer real grass to be tackled on or to tackle on, and it is just comes down to artificial turf does hurt when you're tackled. Furthermore, this one surface cannot support the volume of rugby players that the LRC and the Trinity programs currently have. Now, I certainly hope that you can vote in favor of supporting this matching funds grant request of $250,000, and I can also see that the benefit to the Langley residents in their physical and mental health would be part of your decision as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do have some questions from council. I'll start with Councillor Richter.
Yes, thank you very much. So I just want to confirm that the monies, the grant monies you've received, you have to spend them by December of this year?
We have to start the project by December of 2022.
Okay. And then you mentioned something about starting it in April of 2022. That's when you wanted to start it?
The ideal time to break ground for a field construction as this would be in the best weather months, which would be April to September, October. To be having the project started and finished.
Okay, but so how long would it take to finish it then?
Realistically, this field is bare land at this point, so it would be a matter of stripping. We have an estimation of around about 4.5 month build.
Okay, and how many members or players do you have that use it regularly?
We currently run just over 300 members. Pre-COVID, we were a little larger. We do have some challenges. Our particular sport is implementing vaccination policies, and it's keeping a few people away. So.
Right. And you mentioned Trinity Western University. Are they willing to step up and provide funds for you as well?
I did reach out a while back to a couple of different departments at Trinity, and there was no great appetite as they have already committed some funding to the LEC program.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
Mr. Anderson, Brian, I'm surprised you haven't asked myself and Councillor Davis to improve greatly your first division team. I haven't got the call yet. I wanted to ask you, since the last time you're here, if you can give us, the council, a Coles Note version of how well you progressed with the Worrell properties and where you are right now.
Thank you for that opportunity, Councillor Ferguson. So we had purchased and had an ability to move on to the property next door. The same neighbor owns either side of our parcel, and with their blessing, they were very happy to see us be the future owners of that parcel. The late Jack Worrell had passed away, and prior to his passing, it was that we were great neighbors, and he wanted to see our community sport grow in this way. So that was why we did get a very generous sale price on the parcel, knowing that we would be able to put a second field, hoping that we could put a second field on that parcel. So it all transpired in 2020, 2021, right into COVID time. So
I also wanted to just comment that you're not just the Langley Rugby Club. You reach out with programs for what, youth, women's, junior rugby, and also the high schools? Are there other areas you reach out to as well?
we are currently involved in, yes, both men's and women's, from youth, mini kids, 5 years old, all the way to the master's programs. The largest portion is just over, and to Councillor Richter, about 200 of our members are under 19 years of age, and then the other 100 are above in the adult ages. The other groups we do have, we're obviously very involved in the high school programs, and we have, and township staff, parks have asked us to actually utilize our fields during the LEC construction times. We were the backup field for a 4-week period when there was some delays up at LEC for Mountain High School. So,
and who was your project manager again?
Kevin Fraser.
Oh, Kevin. Okay.
Yes, he's a great member of the Langley Rugby Club. He grew up in Langley, and he's retired last year from the Township of Langley in the Parks Department.
That's right. Yeah, Kevin's Fraser.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Mr. Anderson, and talking about this to us at council today. I just had a question with regards to the grass, use of a grass field, and I think I heard you say that Milner and its grass field could only really be used much in September, maybe beginning of October, and then the field's kind of destroyed, and we have to then rehabilitate it back. So I'm wondering what difference that will be for this field and being a grass field, and will it really be limited in the amount of time that it could actually be used?
Okay, that's a great question. I think staff would probably support me in this and would have more background on it. The Milner Park is a slight bit lower elevation than our current site up on the hill on the Milner slope there. The Milner Park has a heavy clay down there as well. The drainage was not effectively put in, and as a result, it had some challenges. So when the wet weather does come, our rugby season being that September till April, the wet weather usually hits us in about November or end of October. And at that point, Township usually asks us not to play on that field. Now, how would it be different at our site? Being a sand-based field, we would be importing a layer of sand in on top, and it has that better drainage capability. Plus, which we have the advantage of being up on the slope, and we have an exit for our drainage tiles to take that water away.
Right, okay, so you do see the field being used all year round, even though you've got a lot of pretty powerful athletes, ripping through the turf. So, but you see it going all through the winter and not having any problems.
Correct. The township currently has 12 hours of playable usage time per grass field in the winter programs, and we could see that. We would still have our other field as well, so now we can double up. We would get more usage out of a sand-based field. We could probably squeak 14 and 16 hours of usage on that field. Okay. Versus our current field, we would get down to 10 or 12, because again, our drainage is good at the current field, but it is a lot of the heavy Milner clay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you very much. When you mentioned Kevin Fraser's name, my whole body started to tingle. Kevin and he would reach underneath me, and he would grab a hold of my hair on my chest, and he would pull me and push me till my spine started to tingle. And I think if nobody's ever played rugby, they don't realize what I'm actually talking about. But the answer to your question, Steve, I know why. I'll tell you later why the Langley Rugby Club isn't asking you and me to play anymore. They want to win. Anyhow, I have a few questions, maybe kind of little simple questions. But how does this, you had said a share Like if it's a three-way, you'd have the Langley Township, you'd have the Langley Rugby Club, and you'd have the grant that you. How does that work? Tied up with maybe field sharing with the Parks and Rec.
That's a question that I've certainly figured would come out today, and thank you for that, Councillor Davis. I believe that Township Parks has obviously worked on many other shared agreements and programs with other sporting venues and tennis, soccer, and other such throughout the township. We are certainly open to sharing a part of our operation with the Parks Department as part of their registry. I understand it probably best for us to manage that rather than put it into your township pool, but that could be a discussion point that moves. But if it's a successful request, then I believe that Parks would be able to work with us on how best to administer that and make sure that it was a fair and equitable solution to getting usage where possibly another sport or another user group needs to come in. They don't have to drive to Aldergrove maybe to a field that is available, and there's one just down in Milner. So,
okay, another question. Was that if everyone puts 250 in, that comes to 750. Does that's the cost, but maybe just touch on somebody also already did the sand-based field, because I know a rubber field, I call it rubber, but an all-weather field costs a lot more than, it costs more than 750. So maybe just comment how, like, is that comes complete with lights? Maybe I'll just fire them at you. Parking, will that consume the horse farm that you guys developed beside there? And or will all the topsoil be staying on the farm? So, but anyhow, those are just a couple of questions.
okay, I'll deal with the topsoil question first. The topsoil will be stripped off, and we are going to be using it on the site. We do have 9 acres now. There's other areas that do need a layer of topsoil that we obviously have as passive areas. The parking, we have increased our parking over the last 3 to 5 years in anticipation of this. We realized that there was a challenge on certain event days where Crush Crescent was an overflow parking, and we moved to renting the grain terminal down the road and doing a shuttle van system, renting shuttle vans and drivers for that, for safety for youth activities and programs. Your third thing was rubber versus the sand. Yes, the rubber cost I believe the township would probably put in a rubber field, we'll call it a synthetic field, for about 1.25 currently. And this sand-based field, I believe the last one the township put in was about 3 or 4 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And I did sit on the Langley Outdoor Sports Group through the township, and there's an anticipated one in 3 to 4 years, possibly in Yorkson, that would probably be around 1 million. So we, as I said in my presentation, 750. We do have a lot of community support and goodwill amongst contractors and suppliers, and I believe that our bid and our quotes are very firm at this point to get it at 750,000.
Yeah, I know that the Langley Rugby Club, as Councillor Ferguson alluded, you've got the history. You've, no pun intended, you picked up the ball and ran with it from the word get-go, and to better playing field there, which would, looking ahead in the future, would probably be a real asset, and especially if there's some sort of a contract or something that can be shared in any event, actually. It is out of the way. Like, I know I think we had an issue. Well, we thought maybe we could make the Milner playing field bigger, but it didn't seem to be in the right spot. The right spot is up in Willoughby where everybody is. But a destination like yours, privately owned, privately run, you know, to me, that's if everyone could do that, it'd be unbelievable, but not everybody can in sports. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Arneson?
Thank you, Worship, and thank you very much for coming today. I'm going to have to reveal how little I know about, but obviously you're like a PhD, and so you'll have to excuse some of the questions. But one of the things is that I know from literature, for example, that the fields are very much preferred by some players to be of a grass nature rather than a field of synthetics for a variety of reasons. And so I understand in particular it's easier on older bodies, I will say, yeah, when people tackle, etc. I had a question about the scope of the expansion, and so it's not necessarily about an investment from the township, but just issues of liability and insurance. I'm sure that you've worked that all out with respect to the people that play there, especially if it's, I'll call it kind of a co-venture with the township.
Thank you for the question. We are, as players and as registered members, we are registered with the British Columbia Rugby Union, and we also pay an insurance fee to the Canada Rugby Union as well. Spectators that are coming in from other clubs to watch an event going on, they are also covered under that same umbrella. As for our general liability on our parcel of land, yes, we have looked after that as well through our insurance. So
Yeah.
we do provide that if that's something, and we have to provide that when we rent fields from you guys as well. When we go
Yeah.
to parks and rent, we have to provide coverage insurance. So our sporting program does come with it, and then we also have a general liability.
Yeah, I just wondered, given the very difficult COVID situation, whether or not you have waivers for liability if people are playing and there happens to be an incidence of transmission. Is that something you currently address?
At this point, we did not have to do that. British Columbia Rugby actually came down from Canada Rugby Union, and they said that we would not have to do that. We were all, because, well, I believe Minister or Premier Horgan came out with that, and that was early on we had that addressed. It has been a challenging time, but we have actually stayed away from a little more of the sport than we would have cared to. Other sports are moving in more contact as well, but at this point we're fortunate. We're developing our capital infrastructure at this point. It's probably a good time to do it, and I believe we build it and they will come. So
Yeah, thank you. The good thing about it is obviously you're outdoors, so the sense
Yeah.
of transmission is reduced that way. And just in terms of operational costs, so I know that you have a business model that you work on. So is this something that's just primarily funded by all of the different user groups that pay into a general fund for admission?
Our registration fees, our annual registration fees, that is why we don't call ourselves a private club, because anybody can come in. They're paying a membership or a registration fee to play the sport, and then we get, I think it's $122 a member, and then we have our concession as well for event concessions. So we do our fundraisers through the year. We have a lot of charitable support from our older alumni, so. That is probably our biggest business model. Is at this point we are debt free, so we just have to make sure we can turn the lights on and cut the grass and make sure the park looks in good shape.
Thank you, and also thank you for the mitigation about the parking lot. I live just not too far down the street, so that's very helpful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Kunst?
Thanks for coming. Having this extra field, would you then still need to use LEC's synthetic turf, or would you be able to just do what you do at this site?
That's a nice question, and thank you for bringing me into this one. The LEC synthetic turf is actually not for the little kids.
Okay,
It is for high performance athletes.
okay.
So unfortunately, our little guys aren't to that level yet. So we have used it the odd time, and it's a thank you to parks that have allowed us to use it when we have had tough days. Our high performance, our adult team, we have had the blessing from Trinity in the past to, hey, take our time. We're going to play over at another park or another club today. So that has been fortunate. But if we saw this field, we don't believe that we would be needing to go up there.
Okay.
So.
Other question was if this, what's Plan B? Plan A is, helping getting, council support for this, but should that not happen, what happens to,
What happens on Plan B?
yeah,
The biggest thing is, it's like building a house. You got to have the right foundation.
yeah,
You can worry about interior decorating later. Spend all your money on making sure the foundation's done well. So we would have a good field underneath. We might not have a sand top.
I see.
We'd be back to some clay, the virgin soil that we have on the property at this point. For 500,000, we could accomplish that, or 565, we could accomplish that. But the benefit of having the sand-based field would give us a prolonged playing period in the fall and earlier in the spring as well. We're already playing as of 2 weeks ago.
And do you host tournaments?
We do host tournaments, whether or not they're provincial tournaments, as well as we also have our regional stuff, and we host some Langley School District stuff as well.
Okay, thank you.
We're looking forward to the second field for more for the Langley School District as well, because we have 6 high schools that are participating in the sport of rugby. So when they can all come together, we can operate from 2 fields. It has more of a festival tournament style, and it allows for a better competition.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Great, well, thank you. That completes all the questions. Thanks for coming out, and I'm sure that the participation in rugby scrums has helped Councillor Davis manage his way through council. And
I don't know.
good training.
Good, my mic's off, thanks.
There you go. Take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And just so you know, we usually deal with this in other business. I think you already know that. Great, thanks. All right, we'll move on to reports to council. And the first one is E1 is the UBCM Poverty Reduction Program. And this is a request for a disbursement of grant funding. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Arneson moves it. Councillor Long seconds it. Any discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries unanimously. All right, we're on a roll. E2, Nathan Creek Sediment Pond Improvements Grant Funding Application. And this is for almost 3/4 funding for a $700,000 project, I believe. Can I have a motion? Councillor Davis moves it, second by Councillor Kunst. Questions, discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries unanimously. Councillor Woodward?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think obviously on E3, I'm not technically in a conflict, but I'll declare one anyway, just to edge on the side of caution. Thank you.
Thank you. A moment. All right, so we move on to E3, and this is a banner program request for expressions of interest. And there's a motion in front of you. Councillor Arneson moves it, and seconded by Councillor Kunst. Any questions? Councillor Ferguson?
If I could just have a very simple amendment that the amendment would read that the review of the program be reviewed at a 2-year mark. Not
I'll
with the
second
idea of-
that.
Yeah, 2-year mark. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Ferguson, second by Councillor Richter. Any discussion, Councillor Richter?
Yes, I think that's a good idea. 5 years is a long time, and it extends past a council term. So a review at the 2-year mark would be a good idea. I did have a couple of questions coming out of the 2 letters that were in items distributed today. There's one letter that is referencing private banners or private poles. I'm not quite sure. So if poles are on private property, are they automatically going to be taken over by the group that's doing the banners? And if that's the case, why?
Mr. Backen, who can best answer that?
Your worship, can only go back to first principles. If the pole structures on private property, we would need a license to use those structures. So it's something we'd have to review and come back with if that's going to be an area of concern.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay, but if the poles are on private property, they need a license from township to use the poles then?
If they're on private property, I just conferred with Mr. Tulamello, and the banners that we're dealing with are all on township property, so we don't have any structures that are on private property.
Okay. All right, I think that clears it up. The other letter that came through, also from a member of the public, concerned some inaccuracies in the report relative to the old Business Improvement Association. And I was wondering if the report could be corrected to reflect those changes,
Yeah, staff,
which appear to be the correct history. Yeah.
staff can review that. Mr. Backton?
That's correct, Your Worship. We also received a copy of the communication today, so we'll review that and make any corrections that are necessary or needed.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Long?
Yeah, just to be clear, we're speaking to the amendment.
Amendment, yeah,
So
it's,
this is going from 5 years to 2 years. So I'd like to speak to that because in order for this to be an efficient project for any organization to take on, I think you have to have certain planning. There's also ordering of supplies and so forth. So I'm not sure what is, other than a letter or two that's popped up, what is motivating council to change it from staff's recommendation from 5 to 2. So I wouldn't support changing that. I think if you want to make it an efficient and a worthwhile project, I don't know why you'd want to limit it and create extra work and extra tension. And I imagine that you'd have to put out new RFPs and everything else for it every 2 years. So to me, that doesn't make sense. Perhaps 4 years would be more appropriate. You know, if there's some way that you want to tie it to a term, which I'm not sure why, but perhaps 4 years. But I think going to 3 years is going to compromise the project. Or it's actually 2 years is being proposed. Yeah, I don't agree with that. So perhaps the mover might think about making it for the whole term for 4 years.
And Councillor Ferguson is next up, so.
I'm next up.
Unless he has maybe he can explain his reasons.
In my world, I can consider a lot of things. Your Worship, I mean, in Aldergrove, Brookswood, Fort Langley, there's different interests and different motivations, and it may indeed be something that could proceed accordingly. And after a quick review, then it continues on. I don't see it as being a kind of a negative thing, a controversial thing. It's people working together for one common goal, and after 2 years, how is it working? And that's all we're trying to do here, and staff works with things, and it's a kind of a win-win situation where we can review it. Also, there's really no such thing as a couple of letters. I think every letter we receive on every issue is important, and we have 3 things we can do with every letter. The first thing we could do is read it and proceed accordingly. Second thing is we could read it and take some of the things. Third thing is we could do absolutely nothing with it. But I still think they're all important. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Arneson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, further to the amendment, I look at this and say that staff has put in an inordinate amount of work into something that we asked them to do in order to rationalize a program. And I see that if, for example, in delegating this authority to them, they thought that there was merit in putting it for 2 years. I think they might have put something into the actual staff report suggesting this would be an opportunity. So my assumption is that there's a lot of rationality of just allowing it to go forward for 5 years for the same reason that Councillor Long brought forward, which it creates continuity. The groups that are doing the work themselves have to organize themselves around this. There has to be a budget process, a work plan, etc. I just find 2 years very disruptive. And I have to assume that we have a governance model that if something was to go completely sideways, that there would be some political action that would eventually be taken. So I find that these concerns don't really merit us then amending this 5-year strategy. I think it works for all of the different groups. I assume that they'll all be working together. I assume that this is a community initiative that will involve everybody, and so I don't see any reason to change it from 5 years to a 2-year review. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Whitmarsh?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question through to staff. If we have a 5-year term on this, what mechanisms are in place to sort of ensure that things are going smoothly during that 5 years and that things are on track? Is there sort of a partway check-in, or what kind of things are done to assess whether or not things are going well during that 5-year period?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Whitmarsh, we regularly check in with these groups. They pass design proposals to township staff to vet it. We also pass requests from community groups who may want to use the banners for themselves, and we require those groups to address the township's request that other groups, such as other festivals, be considered under that banner program.
Okay, so there is opportunity for both the groups that are managing the banner program, but others as well, to have some kind of input into how it's going, and township staff are kind of up to date on what's happening with it as it goes along?
We have had in the past requests from other groups, and we've approached in the past the BIA that they consider these requests. We've been approached by the Brookswood Merchants Association with regard to a request that came from Brookswood Minor Hockey for having banners installed in that community that are we're recognizing the Rivermen at that point. And so we then funnel that request back to the group, suggesting that they take a look at that and give up the time. So we do work with these community groups.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson?
Well, thank you. Oh, by the way, thank you for coming. I did want to say, would it be, every year we have a grant program, we review those grants every year, correct? Okay. Would it be a big, huge inconvenience on yourself and your staff to review this particular program quickly and proceed accordingly, and everybody working together? Would that be a gigantic, as been mentioned by my colleagues, challenge for you?
Through your worship to Councillor Ferguson, during the process of applying for a grant for these banners, the group presents what their proposal is for the year, what the grants would be funding. So we actually do it on an annual basis.
Okay, so you just answered my question.
Correct.
Thank you very much indeed.
And staff are always pleased to fulfill the wishes of council. So with that, I will call the question on the amendment to change it from 5 to 2. All those in favor? And opposed? Okay, I've got Councillor Whitmarsh, Councillor Kunst, Councillor Long. Okay, I missed okay, start over. Arneson, Whitmarsh, Kunst, Long, froze. Fails. We're back to the main motion. Councillor Richter on the main motion.
Yes, I'd like to propose another amendment to the main motion, and that amendment is that staff will consider applications made by alternative community groups to install banners for specific events and other identified purposes to be installed solely at their cost outside of the banner grant program. And that is in the letter, item number 1 on page 2 of that, that we got in today's distribution.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder? I don't see a second. So move back to the main motion. Call the question on the main motion. All those in favor and opposed? Councillor Richter opposed. It carries. Thank you. I will ask Councillor Woodward to come back. There we go. Councillor Woodward, welcome back. Motion carried for your information. So we'll go to bylaws for first and second reading, and F1 is rezoning application number 100669 and development permit application number 100866. It says Hub Engineering, and bylaw 5750. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Davis in a second. Councillor Whitmarsh. Any discussion? Call the question. Oh, there we go. Councillor Arneson.
Thank you, Worship. I have a question through you to staff. Maybe Mr. Safey could answer this. There was a reference in the staff report to a large Douglas fir tree that's existing, and it seemed like it would be maintained in an interim kind of manner. I'm wondering if that is a result. I think it was because of a roadway or some infrastructure that probably would have to be reconfigured if we were to try and save this large tree specimen. So I'm wondering at what point might it be possible to consider re-engineering, say it was an access roadway or something along those lines. It seemed to me that it sounded very tentative, but there was at least a mention of some element protecting the tree, at least in the interim.
Mr. Safey?
Thank you.
Your Worship, because of the, I guess, the organic nature of trees, this would be a subject of further detailed design to ensure that, as an example, topographical changes around the root of the tree don't negatively impact the health and livelihood or the longevity of the tree. And that is something that staff cannot ascertain at this point without the benefit of the detailed design, and hence the sort of the caveat, if you will, in the staff report that says that obviously the best efforts will be made to save that tree, but ultimately it may not be possible based on the site layout.
Sure.
Very question?
Go ahead,
Thank you.
Councillor Arneson.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Mr. Safey. I think especially in this day and age with the tree canopy and the fact we have a very significant tree, I do understand that there is uncertainty and that changes in grade and water and different things will be impactful. Is there something, would a qualified professional, does this have to be subject to an arborist report? I don't want this to just go forward in the sense that I don't, I'd like some more certainty as to what measures might be taken to consider how to protect that tree. Thank you.
Your Worship, the process does require ordinarily the involvement of qualified professionals, in this case an arborist, that will work in collaboration with the civil design engineer and the architects to ensure that the prospects, if you will, of protecting the tree are maximized and optimized. That is part of the process. That said, if council wishes to, I guess, make that a condition that I don't know if I can word it right now on the fly, so to speak, but something to the effect that utmost efforts will be made to ensure the protection of the tree that's been identified as the Douglas tree on. I think it's 2 to 4 Street.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Richter?
Yes, I share Councillor Arneson's concerns about this application, and I think the real easy way to fix it is not to put 9 lots in there. That's too dense. But I would like to move the condition that the utmost effort be taken to preserve the health and retention of that Douglas fir tree.
Okay,
On 224th.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Arneson seconds. So on the amendment, I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Woodward opposed. It carries. And to our main motion as amended, all those in favor? And opposed? Councillor Richter, Councillor Arneson opposed. It carries. I'll move on to F2. This is Official Community Plan Amendment and Rezoning Application Number 100214 and Heritage Alteration Permit Application Number 101241, Township of Langley and Vicini Homes. It is Bylaw 5761 and Bylaw 5762. Could I have a motion? Oh, sorry. I'm going to go to Councillor Woodward first. Councillor Woodward?
Yeah, no, this is one where I think there's some more argument can be made about a pecuniary interest, so I will declare a conflict on this one, please. Thank you.
Okay, so I will now ask for a motion for F2. Councillor Whitmarsh, second by Councillor Davis. Councillor Ferguson.
Is of significance, and there's an awful lot of material that we as a council have to address. So I would just like to, if I may, refer it till the next council meeting for myself and other members of council to review all the documentation, if I may.
Is a referral motion. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
Councillor Richter seconds it. So on the referral, any discussion? Councillor Richter, do you wish to discuss the referral? I see your hand is still up.
No,
Okay.
I actually wanted to discuss the main one.
Okay, Councillor Long on the referral.
Oh, yeah, well, this has been around a while. It's been through a couple of public information meetings. It's been all kinds of public input. It is time for council to send it to public hearing. There's plenty of time between now and the public hearing for Councillor Ferguson to get his package out and have another look at it, maybe go down there and take a peek. I think the more you delay this, there has to be a decision made eventually, and it is been through a number of changes through my involvement, and Councillor Kunst will attest to this, that the Heritage Advisory Committee has been involved with the review panel, and there's been some changes suggested. There were some other changes in the package that I'm reading here that were suggested by participants in the PIM. So this is what the developers put forward, and I don't know if waiting is going to make any difference to what's in front of us. What will make a difference to this council, I guess, is the opinion of the public when they come out, and this public hearing is scheduled for 2 weeks from now. So delaying this, I guess, would put this off for a whole month or more. So I think we should just proceed, and let's see what happens at the public hearing, and then there's still time to do other things after that, right, Your Worship?
Up to council. Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
I thought that Councillor Davis was before me.
He took his hand down, so go ahead if you wish to speak.
Okay, I did want to say that this came up, I believe, between the 2014-18 council, and I believe there's quite a bit of negotiations and other things regarding the site, the lots, and this is the first time it's come to this council, and my reasons for is reading the information regarding with the public information meeting, the PIM that's been provided to us, the documentation from staff that's provided to us, and all form characters. There's a number of things that a person like myself would view. Now, as far as visiting the site, other than members of council live in Fort Ling, I would say I have been there many times to the site and have wondered about it. And yes, I'm familiar with the site and familiar, but not familiar with the rezoning application. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, I'll call the question as a deferral to the next meeting. All those in favor and those opposed? So Mayor Froese, Councillor Arneson, Councillor Whitmarsh, Councillor Kunz, Councillor Long, so that fails. Back to the main motion. Councillor
I'm
Richter.
sorry, Mayor Froese, would you mind repeating those in opposition? Thank you.
Okay, so Mayor Froese, Councillor Arneson, Councillor Whitmarsh, Councillor Kunst, Councillor Long, Councillor Davis, I didn't catch yours. Were you in favor or opposed?
No, I'm in.
Of the deferral? I'll call the question again, just so we have a clear record. So on the deferral, all those in favor? Okay, and those opposed? So that's Mayor Froese, Councillor Arneson, Councillor Whitmarsh, Councillor Kunz, Councillor Long. So the deferral fails. So we're back to the main motion. And so Councillor Richter on the main motion.
Yes, thank you. I think this is pretty dense for Fort Langley, 44 townhouses on 1.9 acres. That includes tandem parking. And I really don't care for the overall style of the barracks. So I'm not going to support this through first and second. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call the question on first and second reading. All those in favor and opposed?
I'm opposed.
Councillor Ferguson and Councillor Richter opposed. It carries. So we'll move on. We'll ask Councillor Woodward back into the meeting, and we'll move on to bylaws of first, second, and third readings. Okay, we're back. So now we move on to bylaws for first, second, and third reading. G1 is General Local Government Election Bylaw 2010, number 4844, Amendment Bylaw number 5766. And this is first, second, and third reading. So I'll ask for a motion. Councillor Whitmarsh moves it, seconder. Councillor Davis, discussion. All those in favor and opposed? Carries unanimously. And G2 is a council procedure bylaw number 5199, amendment bylaw number 5765. Councillor Long moves it. Is there a seconder? Councillor Davis and Councillor Richter, discussion, questions.
Yeah, I'm just wanting to express my extreme discontent that we have our hands apparently tied to a simple majority only, and that simple majority can create very unpleasant censure problems for other members of council. What I'm also upset about is that we've spent a lot of time this term reviewing the procedure bylaw, amending it so it would work for us. And at the last minute, a lot of our changes are being negated. So I'm not going to support this. I think it's wrong. I think we should be making a complaint to whoever we can make a complaint to, like the provincial government or the ombudsperson or something. But I'm not supportive of the fact that our hands are being tied. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll call the question on G2. All those in favor? And opposed?
I'm opposed.
Councillor Woodward and Councillor Richter are opposed. The motion carries. Sure. Were you opposed? I'll just let them know. Oh, what are you in favor or opposed? I'll just let the clerk know. Opposed. And Councillor Ferguson opposed. Thank you. All right. So now we move on to bylaws for final adoption. I1 is the Land Acquisition Loan Authorization Bylaw 2021 and Alternative Approval Process Bylaw 5742. Could I have a motion? Councillor Kunst and a seconder. Councillor Long, any discussion? Councillor Richter? Oh, you're on mute, Councillor Richter.
I'd like to know what our total borrowing is at right now and how much our borrowing has increased over the last, or over this term. And what's the dollar value of our new debt since 2018? And are we not allowed to say what this borrowing is being used for?
It's in the report. Mr. Backen,
Well, it's very vague in the report.
Okay, Mr. Backen.
Your Worship, usually it's references being for land acquisition. We're not really specific unless there's a motion from the close to bring it forward, but it is a matter of public record that I think the land now is vested in the township. And as to the other questions, I think some of that material was in the budget package, but we can certainly pull that back out and recirculate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Arneson.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Well, I'm singing a familiar refrain now. I don't think we have a debt management strategy, and I see that there are a number of different propositions going forward, some of which I would be supportive of and others potentially not. But the problem is, how can I know how we're going to manage our debt when we don't have a strategy or a framework for making sure that we are doing it in a fiscally responsible manner? So this may be the best proposition since sliced bread, but I can't support it in the absence of a strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And opposed?
I'm opposed.
Councillor Richter opposed. Councillor Arneson opposed. The motion carries. And Councillor Davis, were you opposed? Okay, Councillor Davis opposed. The motion carries. Okay, we're going to move on to that was correspondence. Just to receive the correspondence. Motion, please. Councillor Kunst, seconder. Councillor Davis. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries unanimously. We have minutes of committees. K1, Seniors Advisory Committee, could receive the minutes. Motion, please. Councillor Arneson, second by Councillor Ferguson. Any errors or omissions? Discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And associations and other government agencies. We have the Joint School District 35 Municipal Liaison Committee from January 26th. Good motion moved by Councillor Whitmer, second by Councillor Ferguson. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now we get to the mayor's report. I know you guys rushed through the agenda so we could get to the mayor's report in a timely manner. It's most exciting. Good afternoon, everyone, and in the chambers and in Zoom land. On January 25th, I co-chaired the Healthier Communities Partnership meeting, and discussion topics included a review of the 2021 Healthier Community Partnership Survey and interviews and updates from various committees, including the Langley Local Immigration Partnership, Langley Children's Committee, Langley Seniors in Action, the Poverty Reduction Task Group, and the Langley Overdose Response Community Action Table. On January 27th, the TransLink Mayor's Council and Board approved Transport 2050. This is the region's new 30-year transportation strategy. Over 100 actions to improve transportation were identified in the plan and include quadrupling the size of the rapid transit network from 100 to 400 kilometers. I think it's the cycling network. Building out an 850 kilometer traffic protected major bikeway network. Dedicating more streets to walking, biking, rolling, and transit. Putting frequent transit within a short walk of most homes and jobs. Promoting electrified and shared bikes, scooters, and cars. I'm really pleased that the strategy is adopted and look forward to seeing transportation improve throughout the region. And this was a lot of work with the board and the Mayor's Council to come to this, and staff. There was an incredible amount of public input that went into this report. over the last couple of years, actually several years, I think this has been around for a while, doing the Transport 2050 plan, and so it's good to see that it was given approval. On February the 4th, at the request of the Langley Memorial Hospital Foundation, I toured the Langley Foundry building with representatives from the Langley Memorial Hospital Foundation, IAFF 4550, and the Township of Langley Firefighters Charitable Society. Langley Foundry will be operated by Encompass Support Services Society and will offer young people access to mental health and substance use support, primary care, peer support, and social services. Langley Foundry is expected to open this spring, maybe later spring, and will have a profound impact on Langley youth. And I know they definitely want to invite all of council at some point to come and make a tour, and I'm looking forward to that. I had a good tour at this stage, and it was really to introduce the Langley Firefighters Charitable Society to the project, and it was a very good tour. And councillors were busy. I know Councillor Whitmarsh participated in a regional call with Minister Osborne and other municipal government representatives to discuss goals and accomplishments to ensure a strong foundation for the next council. Maybe if you have any recollection of that call. It's a routine call with mayors, and I think at the same time, the mayors were in, a lot of the mayors were at the GVS and DD meeting, and so Councillor Whitmarsh attended on my behalf along with a whole bunch of other councillors, I think, acting mayors.
Yeah, most of the people there were acting mayors or other councillors representing their councils, because most of the mayors were involved in their metro meetings.
Yeah.
But it was a really informative discussion, and Minister Osborne was really helpful in guiding some of the thoughts through as we move forward as a province. But the thing that I was taken by mostly was how similar are the challenges that we all face from one community to another, and most of those challenges center around issues around growth, transportation, as we talked about. Then the Transport 2050 plan is a great start for sure, but also certainly things around affordable housing, homelessness is certainly an issue, and mental health was brought up by many of the different people on the call, and how we're managing and going to manage through with mental health, as that seems to be a challenge that it's not necessarily getting any better. It's actually getting worse as we strive for that. So it was interesting call just to hear everyone have the similar kinds of challenges they're facing, and yet lots of great things being done in each community. So it was a great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I see Councillor Richter. I know with the Metro Vancouver meeting and Metro 2050 is working its way through, and certainly a lot of work being done there. And I know they've worked together with TransLink when the Transport 2050, so we're into these 2050 plans. So, Councillor Richter, I know you can expand a little bit more on it. Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to say to council that what came to Metro was a list of all the I guess, commentary that's come in from all the different agencies. In reviewing the comments we submitted, I was not convinced that our concerns were taken as seriously as I felt they should have been, particularly relative to aquifer protection. In any event, I have obtained a copy of the commentary and the response that Metro has made to that commentary. I've asked Mr. Backen if he could please circulate it to council. I believe that he has. And I think council needs to take a good, long, hard look at whether or not we are happy with the responses that Metro has given us. Now, Metro does say all they wanted to do was do a little bit of fine tuning, not a major overhaul. But given the threat to our aquifer, particularly in Brookswood from the actions of our neighbor to the west, we need action now. And I think that we need to be very firm in our decision on whether or not as a community we're going to support these revisions. I just want to flag for council as well that 2050 has to have unanimous consent in order to be adopted. So all the member municipalities have to agree to support it. So that's why I think we should take the time. The other thing I wanted to bring to council's attention, and I'm sure that most of council's probably aware, the the South Campbell Heights development, which is the one that is going to probably impact, well, definitely our aquifer, has been given sort of a stay. It was referred back to Metro staff to address some of the concerns that came up. A lot of the concerns focused on proper dialogue with the First Nations. It's not over yet. It could very well come back sooner than we think it should come back, but I think that we need to be prepared for that as well. So that's my report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and yes, thank you, Councillor Richter and the Mayor Froze for providing this. I'm not sure if it's 830 or 74 of 830, but it's an awful lot of reading I've got to do. Appreciate that, and all the comments from the organizations, including TransLink, ourselves, City of Richmond, and the other member municipalities of Metro Vancouver. I never realized it had to be unanimous. That's going to be an interesting call. I want to thank the board of Metro Vancouver, including the two representatives of Langley, for supporting me for the fourth term as the Metro Vancouver's rep for the treaty table. I really appreciate that. It's very interesting and it's very important. And thank you again. Obviously, you must like my reports that I present to the board. Myself and the mayor and Councillor Arneson, and she may want to comment as well, were involved again with the discussions with Iona Liquid Waste Treatment Center, and it was an excellent presentation involving in the environmental impacts, parks, recreational opportunities, of course the engineering and all the engineering design, and I guess the provision of works, of course financial impact, Metro's view on the project, and of course, last but not least, the Indigenous input and consultation. So it was a very, very good meeting, and I even learned a little bit more about my studies on BOD and tertiary and secondary treatments, how they're applied to local agencies and how they can be applied internationally. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Arneson attended that GVS&DD meeting with me on the Iona treatment plant, one of the largest capital projects that will be in Canada. So, Councillor Arneson, maybe you want to talk about that. It was quite it was a very good presentation by staff. It was a 3-hour presentation by a variety of the consultants and staff. So, turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you, Worship. So I have two things. The first one is I'm very happy to report that I'm involved with the Langley Local Immigrant Partnership, and that is something that's building on a foundation that's currently in place, playing a vital role in supporting collaboration and coordination amongst service providers to ensure duplication is avoided, gaps are filled, and service delivery is consistent and seamless with respect to new immigrants to our community. So that's another interesting social aspect of, part of the work that we have in the Township of Langley. And yeah, I just want to give a little brief report. I was really interested and was very grateful to be able to go to the workshop that was provided for the Iona wastewater facility. So as the mayor has mentioned, it is a huge undertaking, and it is the biggest or largest capital project undertaken by Metro to date. So, and as Councillor Ferguson has alluded to, there's many different components of it, including the discussion of financial, regulatory, and other considerations. The site itself has been in existence since in the early 1960s, even, less long than I, but anyways. But it hasn't really undergone any kind of substantive changes in that time. And because of federal and provincial regulatory issues that have recently arisen, and because of population growth, there are upgrades and stage planning that needs to take place in order to make sure that the facility is at the appropriate capacity to deal with making sure that the body of water in which we deliver our sewage and other water effluent is not contaminating the Salish Sea. As further to the plans that are being made, there's a huge climate action component as well as an ecological restoration, and that's very much tying into the Musqueam Band, who are the neighbors in that area. As some may know, that there is a park in the area that's very well used, and I think I wrote down that might even get 400,000 visitors a year, which is extraordinary. That might be a bit out of whack. I'd have to look at my notes again. And just finally, further to the reference to Metro as a project, they are looking for partnering arrangements, obviously, between Metro, the province, and the federal government, because it is a multi-billion-dollar project currently predicted. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, so we'll move on. Thank you very much. We'll move on to other business. And Councillor Woodward, you have 1 and 2, and then the one that we put on from the earlier meeting. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll just move that first one.
Okay. Is there a seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Richter seconds. Okay, and this is just to get a written summary of some of the verbal updates. I think would be good. Any discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. All right, Councillor Woodward, number 2.
Yep, just move P2.
Okay, is there a seconder? Councillor Ferguson seconds it. Okay. Any discussion? I do have, Councillor Long, I'll let you go first.
Well, actually, I'd be interested to hear what you say, but it's kind of, there is no therefore, or, any rationale, but I mean, certainly there is a process that's been in place for many, many years. Can staff expand perhaps on what is being requested here? Or do they have any idea of what is being requested here? Or, so it's sort of, I understand, I can read it, but I'm interested to know what staff's comments are on what is not being done now that is supposed to be done from this motion.
Okay. Yeah, I think we'll go through this. I think it might be good to have this referred to staff to come back with a bit of a, to flesh it out a bit and give us all of council some background. But we'll let this go through. Councillor Whitmar, or let this go through the speakers list. Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yeah, I guess I had the similar questions. I'm just interested to know from staff what we currently do and how this is a change or different from what we currently have in place. So whether it goes to a staff report or whether staff can inform us today, I'm fine either way.
Okay. Councillor Richter?
Yes, I had some questions around the motion, and I think what has predicated the motion, which is the letter that we got at our last meeting from the Donna Gabriel School PAC. And maybe the author could clarify, how long is well before? Like, are we talking a year before, a month before?
Okay. If you have any, I'll go to Councillor Woodward.
And I do have a couple of other questions for
maybe
staff too.
Sure, if you can go through your questions and then Councillor Woodward.
Okay, that would be a question to the mover. I also have a question for staff about the status of the Donna Gabriel School. I know they did give us an update telling us that we were being held up by approvals from the province. Have we had those approvals received yet? What is going to be the cost to get those playing fields up and running, and can we get them up and running in time for the next school year?
Mr. Backen?
Thank you, Your Worship. We still have not received the necessary approvals. The availability of the field for the year depends really upon when we get those approvals and when work can start. The sooner the better. And as to the cost of it, I think it says for the budget, but we'd have to get back to council, I guess, in terms of what the anticipated costing is given the supply chain changes we've seen ongoing recently.
So have we got it firmly covered in the 2022 budget?
I believe that's actually from previous budget years. It's a carry forward.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question was how long is intended to be well before?
Okay, thank you. Councillor Woodward, can you respond to that question? Because it's in your motion.
Sure. I mean, I think it's intentionally left a little open for interpretation because there are a number of issues related to playing fields in schools and the construction of playgrounds associated with those, which can take some time and coordination work. So I think the intent is clear that we finish our component well before any time frame necessary for the school district to finish its, so that when a new school opens, it has a playing field and a playground.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, I think it's important that we can actually maybe do something like this, but sometimes our hands are tied, and I appreciate some of the comments made by Councillor Richter and Councillor Woodward and perhaps others. My question, since we're not questioning the referral motion, but my question is, how about the other school? The reason is environmental, and the reason is we need the approvals of fisheries or the province. That's the reason, not we, the school district needs, and in conjunction with us as well. What's the status of the other school as well, the Northwest Langley school that's waiting for the same approvals, if I may, through the chair?
Mr. Backen or Mr. Seffi?
Your Worship, the discussions are ongoing.
Any word about from the, I know that the MLA's working on it, you guys are working on it, school district's working on it for months, I understand.
I don't know if it's been months, Your Worship, but certainly we have been in communication with the school district, and as I said earlier, the discussions are ongoing. We've advised them of the fact that we are pursuing this matter actively, I think more than once a week, twice a week with the province, the Ministry of Forest, Lands and Natural Resource Operations, and it may be the school district staff who may have approached because of her prior portfolio, the current MLA, and requested her intervention. It wasn't our staff.
Okay, well, and I appreciate my final comment is I know that we need to get, at least our end, how to get grass seed and all the necessary plantings in, otherwise they're going to lose another year. So that's how important it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Long.
Yeah, so getting back to I think we've kind of morphed into a different discussion specific to certain schools, but I mean, the policies attached here on P2, can staff maybe tell us, is there something in this policy that they could suggest would be changed? Because it says where feasible, it is advantageous and desirable where possible to ensure adequate and timely liaison. All these things are built into this policy already. And I don't know as you can legislate or put a policy that says things will happen, because things have to progress to a certain point before they can happen. I think staff had just explained some of that. So I guess I'm just answering my own question, Your Worship, that the policy here appears to be written in such a way that every effort is made to try and make sure that parks, and it's not necessarily playing fields. I think we're talking neighborhood parks here. There may be a playing field, there may not be. But neighborhood parks where they're integrated with the schools as much as possible and as efficiently as possible and as timely as possible already in this policy that I can see. But I'm happy to, if staff would comment on what could be changed, we can make a change perhaps.
Mr. Backen?
Your Worship, it's a good point. I think the motion's intending to try to accelerate the need for some of the infrastructure associated with schools as we can. There are, however, some risks associated with that. It would take some time to outline. My suggestion would be that we simply refer this to staff for a presentation, report, or memo, so we can come back with a more fulsome discussion on the topic and try to address all the points that have been raised.
Okay. Thank you. We'll go through the speakers. Councillor Woodward.
Yeah, thanks. So if we're going to refer it, or we can, it is a pretty minor suggested addition. I think it's trying to clarify that council, well, speak for myself, that the mover and the seconder take it seriously, that this is something that has to be addressed as part of the process. I think with the school in question, the latest new elementary school in Willoughby in question, the building permit for this was applied for, I believe, many years ago, multiple years ago. So when we get a school site being handed over to us to the point where the school district has had time to design the school, submit a building permit application for the school, get the building permit for the school, and then actually build the school and open the school, that presumably in that amount of time we could interface with the province and get the playing field built. Some call them parks. That I go and visit them and they don't look like parks to me. They look like playing fields. So that's why I call them playing fields. This is the intent of this, that something here somewhere went wrong that's got nothing to do with fisheries, in my opinion. So if we want to add to this feedback from management on what exactly happened here, why it is multiple years to get a playing field built, while the school has been almost open for a full calendar school year now, and we're still not making progress on the field. I'd like to understand what happened. I'd like to make it very clear to this council and myself, can speak for myself, once these playing fields open, when schools are opened, and don't really want to hear about fisheries approval if the school district can somehow manage to apply for a school and build a school and open a school for a year prior to us finishing playing field. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilor Richter?
Yes, I'd like to propose an amendment. I'd like to amend the last part of the motion to read, be completed before, so drop well, strike well, completed before the official opening of new schools where reasonably possible. So adding the phrase where reasonably possible. I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that some things are just out of our hands.
All right, on that amendment, okay, I'll call the question on the amendment. Oh, sorry, I'm ahead of myself. I'm so excited. Councilor Davis seconded. Councilor Long wishes to speak to.
Well,
Yeah, I prefer the suggestion by Mr. Backen that we refer the whole thing to staff and come back, because this is, again, being too specific in my mind, because, hey, what if we delay the school opening because there's some issue with the field that we have no control over? That means the school said, oh, we can't really open the school now because of this potential motion, and that could happen. But I don't know where it's going to sit in the procedure, but I would prefer to see this, if anything's done with it, to refer to staff, as was suggested by Mr. Backen.
Thank you. So we'll dispose of the amendment one way or the other, and then could entertain a referral motion on the main motion.
Or can we refer the whole thing?
Well, we could, but let's go through the, unless you want to, Miss Little, can we do a, we can refer the amendment and the motion back to staff if we wish to at this point, could we?
You could, Your Worship. Certainly, the point being, though, I think is the amendment actually does clarify it somewhat, and so I don't think it's contradictory to the referral. Sometimes that could be the case, but in this case, I think it's trying to understand the timelines better, so it would be in order to dispose of the amendment and then take the next step.
Right, my thinking. Thanks. So we'll proceed with the amendment, and then we'll move on after that. Councillor Ferguson on the amendment.
well, since we're discussing all sorts of things, I did want to point out that it is interesting to note, for us to look at what we're doing with the school. Schools are they're paramount. They're so important. It's beyond paramount. And a growing community needs schools, and we need good schools close to where people live. That's just imperative. It's so important. My question is, if the school district in future or otherwise, as they have done in the past, decide not to build a school, that means we're still stuck with the park. If I may, through the chair, Mr. Backen or somebody else that might have to be able to answer that, Sandra or somebody?
Yeah, Mr. Backen.
Effectively correct, Your Worship. Quite often, we will do joint school sites, and on a rare occasion, the school may not proceed, and we will be left with the property, usually to be left in some sort of a neighborhood park in that regards. We've had one situation where that occurred, and it really depends upon the availability of funding for the school district.
Yeah, you know what? And that's a win-win sometimes, but it's not always a win-win. And I know the park you're talking about. It's up in the I call it South Gordon, but it's off around 70th and off 200th around the 199, 198 area. It's a beautiful park, but that was supposed to be a school park, and the school district decided not to build, and that we had to buy the land and we built the park. It's a win-win for us, but it is expensive. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on the amendment, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the amendment and opposed? Okay, I've got Councillor Kuntz, Councillor Long, Councillor Arneson, Councillor Woodward, and Mayor Froese opposed. So we're back to the main motion. Okay, the motion. Councillor Long moves to refer the main motion to staff. Second by Councillor Arneson. On the referral, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Woodward and Councillor Richter, and it carries. Thank you. Councillor Woodward will take you back in time to the previous meeting and the motion that was there.
Yeah, so I'll just just move that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, we'll just get on. So it's just to get everybody back on track here. Under other business in the special meeting for Township Council for budget purposes earlier today, we deferred the other business C1 to this meeting, so we're now on that page, so as long as everybody's caught up. So Councillor Woodward.
I'll second it, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Woodward, seconded by Councillor Richter. And so at this point, yeah, we're just waiting. We'll slow it down. I'm not going to call a question. We'll have some questions. Councillor Long, go ahead.
Okay, so this is about doing something at 276th. Now, there's no through roads on either side there, right? On the east side, there's a road, then at the end of pedestrian access to the school. And on the west side, from what I can tell, there's a pedestrian lane connecting. Now, when is that road going to open up? Because, I mean, it's always scary. I often don't agree with the traffic folks here. You know, we all want to put a light here and a light there, but there's always those uninspected and unintended consequences. 200th Street is an extremely busy street, so if you can have a pedestrian-only crossing there, that could be deadly as well. So, you know, I mean, I don't want to say because I'm not an engineer, and but I would be concerned if there's no road there, how you know, motorists may not realize that they have to stop, and even though a light goes red. So maybe this should be referred to staff as well. Most definitely should be, because I don't think that, you know, council can give direction, and that's what we're here for, but I don't think we can engineer these types of things. And even though I read the report where Mr. Safey had said that maybe an interim pedestrian thing could be considered, I'd be very concerned about safety on that busy street, especially since there's no road there yet. So all that being said, I don't know what the answer is, Your Worship, but it's worrisome to me that if we just say, go ahead and put a pedestrian crossing in there, that's the right thing to do. So maybe this could be referred to staff, and I'll hold, if you want to go through the speakers list, I think most definitely staff should come back with a full report on what can be done there. Definitely there's a concern. I read it in the minutes. Kids
just kind of a point of order, Mr. Mayor. I just want to clarify something.
Go ahead. What your point of order? There's a point of order.
Point of order, okay.
Point of order. The motion does not contemplate a pedestrian crossing. The motion clearly states signalized intersection.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll I'll go through the list and go back. I hear Councillor Long saying,
well, there's no road there. How can you put an intersection?
Yeah. Okay, so that's why we need all of council to be on the same page and get the full information from staff, which is always a good thing to do. So we'll go through this.
Well, point of order, Your Worship. The one I'm reading here says completed pedestrian crossing at 276th Avenue. So maybe I've got the wrong one.
That's why we could refer this whole thing. Okay, we'll go through any questions that council may have, and then come back to you, Councillor Long. Councillor Richter.
Yeah, this is overdue. I think we had that incident with a young student trying to jaywalk across. We've got to fix this situation as soon as possible because it is not safe. And my only question is what will the cost of this be? And it seems from the wording of the motion that it would use road development cost charges in addition to the required municipal assist factor. Do we have enough money in the DCCs to cover the costs this year?
Great, thank you. And that could be part of that referral, get that information. Councillor Davis?
Thank you. I also think this is overdue. I know that stemming from some members of the school board of education have expressed serious concern, and I don't know, that's kind of a different way to start it, a motion. However, maybe a question, did we not, last term we looked at this, and maybe we didn't look at it in detail with from staff, but we looked at it, and we looked at a pedestrian overpass. We looked at options. Where did that go, or did that not stay? Did that stay with us and we never acted on it? Or I'm just concerned that no matter what, if you talk to anybody in Brookswood, they say it takes longer to get from Brookswood to number 1 highway than it does from number 1 highway to Burnaby. And if we stick another, if we, 200th is I avoid it. I just avoid it. It's stop and go and stop and go all the time. So I'm also concerned about timeline here with a goal of completion by August 31st, 2022. I understand that. That's a, hey, let's get this job done. Like, I understand that attitude, but I'm concerned that maybe I should just ask that question. Has this, does it, last term we looked at this, and was it in the way of, I don't know, maybe it was a member that's sitting at the school board now that brought it up on the council table. But we have looked at this. Could somebody jog my memory?
Mr. Seffi, do you have can you give some background on this intersection?
Your Worship, yes, certainly this has been discussed at the School District Liaison Committee of Council previously, and I believe at Council as well. There was an accident that happened, and there's been technical work that's been done in collaboration with the Coast Mountain Bus Company as well as School District to make some adjustments. In the meantime, staff have been working with adjacent developers, and currently the plan is to install a signalization at that intersection as early as this summer. That was something that was included as a development condition for a development application on the west side of 200th Street, just north of the 76th Avenue alignment.
Yeah, that was that high rise. Yeah. Okay, so where is that? Then you say it's early as this summer. Like, where is this already in action? And will this, if it's already in action, then we should just say, well, this is a good motion, but we're already doing it. And maybe, but to do it by August 31st, 22, I'm just concerned that, well, there is an election and we don't want to start having a real brag. I don't want a brag sheet anyhow. I just would wonder, I'm just worried that we're, by throwing it in real fast like that. Because I know that, if my memory corrects me, we looked at it with that high rise, and I think I'd mentioned, well, you know, we could maybe put an underpass in. It just seems like we need to take a second sober look at this, not try to cram it through till August. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Davis that we did talk about this last term in relation to the high rises that are going on the west side of 200th around that 75, 76. I think we did talk about whether that would be a walking, like an overhead walkway kind of thing as an option over 200th Street. So, you know, this is a critical issue. This is a really important issue. It's been brought up a couple of times at the school board liaison, municipal liaison committee. And so I do think it's an important thing. I know that staff has done work on this already, as Mr. Safey has suggested. There is a number of things that are in play. But I do think it's important. So I think it would be really helpful to have either a report or a presentation from staff on what's being done, what's happening right now, and what we could look to do, and what are different options for us as we look forward. I'm not sure that having an intersection where everyone has to stop on 200th right there is, maybe we need another one, I'm not sure. But I just like to know what the options are, and I think that would be really helpful. So I'd certainly support this being referred to staff to come back, you know, fairly soon. So it's not delayed for a long period of time, but fairly soon, maybe the next meeting or two from now, where we could have some kind of report and understanding of what options would be. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, I think that this actually did come up at the last school district TOL liaison meeting. So that's important. It came up, and the trustees and the senior staff were very concerned about that. And safety is of the utmost, especially we don't want any kids getting hit by vehicles. And there was a concern expressed about that. This is a good project. I think it's a good idea. And that's what we do here at the council. We come up with something that's important. And sometimes it comes through notice of motion, through staff and other means. And this is an example of coming through the school district and not dreamed up by another member of council, but something deemed as important in the issue of safety. The timeline is always a challenge, but we do the best we can, hoping always to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Woodward.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm gonna just maybe jump in here a little bit. Though it's worded specifically because I think it's important to send a strong message that we want to finish the ultimate plan there. The master transportation plan contemplates, and of course, please correct me if I'm wrong, but contemplates a fully signalized intersection there. So I don't understand some of the comments around doing something different than what's in the plan. There is going to be an intersection there. It's just a matter of when. And I think it's reached the critical point that this needs to be done. So if you drive through there and look at the additional construction of housing to the west side of 200 directly at the vicinity of that ultimate location, there's a significant number of housing nearing completion. And I think it's important to recognize that, actually notice that, and make a strong declaration that we should be completing this intersection before the next high school year and middle school year for students to reach that. We also have a situation where, given the catchment areas the way they are right now, Donna Gabriel is seeing a significant volume of elementary students due to the lack of school construction on the west side of 200. So many actually children who live on the west side of 200, they're actually traveling to Donna Gabriel. So I think it's important to recognize that. I think it's important to at least be aware of that and do something about it. And I think it's reached the point that this intersection's got to be put in. I recognize that there'll be some challenges given that not all quadrants of that intersection are under development, but I think we need to resolve it based upon what's happening there in that particular vicinity. And it is not a listed approvable project within the transportation capital budget as submitted to us. So it has to be done in this form to pre-approve it, send a strong message that we're going to get this done. This council is going to get this done. And we're not going to waffle with presentations and interim solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, before I go to Council Long, Mr. Seffi, the next meeting, I believe, is 3 weeks from now. Would that be sufficient time if referral motion is successful to come back with a memo on this intersection, the history and funding sources for it?
Yes, Your Worship. In this particular case, there is sufficient work that's already been done that we can comfortably commit to a presentation or a memo or a report as council desires by next meeting.
Great, thank you. Council Long, do you wish to make that referral?
Yeah, I'll make the motion that this be referred to staff for a full report. And I won't comment anymore, but I heard many different things here. But let's just get the referral to staff and we'll hear all the right stuff. Thank you.
Is there a seconder to the referral? Councilor Davis seconds it. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And opposed?
I'm opposed.
Councilor Woodward opposed?
Opposed, yeah.
The motion's very clear.
I'm opposed as well.
Thank you. Councilor Woodward and Councilor Richter opposed. It carries. Thank you. Any other business? One is the delegation. Again, I'd like to refer these delegations to staff as we normally do, and to get possible funding sources and how we could look at this. So if anybody wants to make that motion, Councilor Long. Second by Councilor Arneson. On the motion, Councilor Whitmarsh.
Sorry, no comments on the
motion. Okay, thank you. Councilor Richter on the motion.
No, I have my hand up for other items.
Okay. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And is there any other business? So we'll go to Councilor Whitmarsh.
Yeah, I just wanted to make council aware, I did circulate prior to the start of the meeting, just a notice of motion for the February 28th meeting regarding the Fort Langley Community Park. And I wanted also for those that are watching the meeting to know that that's coming forward in that meeting. So it's just simply a notice of motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilor Richter.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to go through, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items from items distributed. I'd like to start first with the January 27th items distributed. Item number 1 on page 1 concerning the Donna Gabriel School Park. Can we please write our MLA and ask the MLA to assist us in getting these approvals moved forward?
Sure. Do we need a motion of council? Might be good to have a motion of council.
I'll make that motion then, I guess from the mayor to the MLA.
Sure. Moved by Councilor Richter, second by Councilor Ferguson, a letter to the MLA regarding some of the concerns we have with the park. Is that correct?
Well, the approvals, so that we can get the approvals.
The concerns that we have with the approvals.
Fast track the approvals, yeah.
Mr. Backen, he'll massage that motion to be perfect, and staff will write a beautiful letter, and I'll make a phone call. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Unanimous.
Okay. My second item is from items distributed on February 3rd, item number 2, which is a letter from the Assistant Deputy Minister of Municipalities, which basically is encouraging local governments to shift to electronic meetings for their members. I'm just wondering, have we given any thought to that?
Mr. Backen?
Yes, Your Worship. Ms. Bauer is actually reviewing that document. I don't think we have a position just yet, but it's under review.
Okay. Item number 3 on page 3, which concerns the Con West development. I wanted to find out from staff if we have received the official ALC confirmation of this.
Mr. Backen?
Your Worship, we received confirmation from the parties, but not from the ALC as of yet.
That's
Okay, so we're
progress.
still waiting confirmation from the ALC. Okay.
Just
Item
to-
number.
if we can get when that does come, maybe a memo to council, Mr. Backen, just so council's aware. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Just wanted to close that off.
Item number 6 on the Booth, Fernrich, and Rinn plans. I assume these will be coming to council shortly as they're in our items distributed this week. Will staff be making a presentation? And if staff is making a presentation, I'd like to, and I will be asking, for an estimate of how many mature trees will be lost as a result of these 3 plans.
Okay, thank you. I think staff will be making a presentation. They've taken note of that. They'll certainly provide something on the canopy. Thank you.
Okay. Item number 10 on page 364 was a request for $350,000 for drainage issues at 256th Street and 8th Avenue. If I'm reading the report correctly, that is unfunded. I was wondering if staff could look at options to fund it that would not include a tax increase.
Mr. Backen, is that, yep, no, it's yes.
Okay, and then item number 22 on page 389 concerning rain gardens up in the Alder complex, 70th Avenue and 210th Street. It seems to me they're asking for dirt so they can fix their rain gardens. Is this something we can help them with?
Mr. Backen, is that something staff can look into? We'll look into it and let you know. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kunst.
Oh.
Nope.
Yes, sorry.
Oh,
Other
okay.
business?
Other business, yeah.
Personal, legal?
Oh, no, we're not.
Sorry. I'm not paying attention.
Okay. Do you want that for when we're going to close? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I'll come back to you. Councillor Ferguson, on other business?
It is item number 8 on today's, which is February the 7th, items distributed to council. A letter from, I think, Susan McKenzie regarding where we're at with the pool. And I was, if I may through the chair, I was in the impression a budget item was the fact that we are proceeding with a spray park in Fort Langley, if I may through the chair.
Correct, Your Worship. Contained in the budget is reference to as funding for a spray park, I think from prior year surplus.
Okay, when is that construction going to start? If I may through the chair.
Ordinarily, I think we would be finishing the detailed design in the next matter of weeks. So after that, we go through the procurement process, subject to the motion that's now before council.
So it will be built in 2022, the spray park?
If council wishes that to be the case, we can start construction, but there's, as we've learned today, there's an outstanding motion that has to be, I guess, processed. That won't affect us with the detailed design.
No, the only reason why I would say that is the fact we've gone through a process already. I had a problem with the process, and I didn't support the spray park, but it's still important that we as a council make decisions, as you know, those of us who have been on council for a while. And the motion is made, as Julie seconded, move forward, the budget is put into place, do we proceed or no proceed? I mean, that's a very important question to ask.
Yeah.
And that goes with roads, it goes with parks, it goes with everything that we do at this level.
Yeah, so far, the direction staff have is to proceed, and all Mr. Backen is saying that.
So, Mr. Mayor, we're going to have a spray park this summer in Fort Langley?
That's what I understand from staff, so unless, but I think what Mr. Backen is also saying is that council at any time could change it, but I don't, but I agree with you, council's made a decision, but I don't think we're not dealing with any motion right now.
Your
so
worship,
I don't know.
we need to
Talking about-
back up a little bit. I guess the first question is, where are we at with the spray park for Fort Langley? You're correct, there is a motion and there is funding available, and we're at the stage of detailed design. Once detailed design is complete, then we can advance matters through the procurement process. That should lead to some construction in the summer. The only hesitation is supply chains being what they are, and some of the complications. We do not know when we will start or finish, but that's the direction we're operating under. The reference is council always has a unfettered discretion to revisit matters, and today we learned there's a motion that I think calls for some planning of the area. Now, if council gave us contrary direction, we would follow that direction, but at the moment, we are still proceeding with the detailed design along with the preliminary comments that I made.
Okay, but I do need to clarify, Mr. Mayor. I'm just speaking to a motion that's currently in play. I can't speak to anybody with respect to any member of council. I haven't even read the motion. I'm almost apologizing. Maybe I should have, but I can only do with what's important. We have an agenda, and all I can do is follow through with what's in the agenda. And if we want to divert from that and go back to a policy about looking at notice of motions, reading them, then deciding them and making decision, that seems
No, I don't think
contrary to
that's
what their governance model is.
I don't think that's what Ms. Backen said. There is direction from council to continue with the detailed design, and as far as I know, that's continuing, and council has not made any decisions contrary, so I wouldn't expect contrary decisions at
Okay, thank you very much.
at
Thanks,
this point,
staff,
but
too.
I can only deal with the motion that's in front of me.
That's
and
correct.
Right now, there is none, so. All right, great. Any other business? Seeing none. Motion to resolve to special closed. Councilor Kunst?
Personal legal.
Okay, just get your mic on so you can, okay, you have a what?
Personal and illegal.
Personal and illegal,
Or
okay.
just
Personnel
those
and
two
legal,
then, yeah.
okay. Anybody else? Councilor Ferguson?
Yeah, H, please.
H, what is H? Sorry.
H is H.
Personal?
It's H, it's personal, I guess. H is
so-
H.
Winston Ferguson. Yeah, what is this? Okay, so with that, first of all, I'll ask a motion to resolve to special close with those additions. Councilor Whitmar, second by Councilor Kunst. So with the Councilor Kunst, personal, legal, and Councilor Ferguson on personnel. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
H is H.
And now a motion to terminate. Councilor Davis, seconder. Councilor Kunst, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Very good.
So how many minutes? 10 minutes? Okay, come back at 3:35. How's that? Take a break.
Thank you.